So whether you're at home or even on your holidays, many of us buy pre-packaged food and assume that it'll be safe to eat. But for people with food allergies, it can be a totally different situation.
Manufacturers are required by law to list all allergens in the ingredients, which helps to make it clear. But increasingly, they're choosing to put a few more in the may contain section. And that's leading to lots of confusion and frustration. Presenter OJ Borg has been to find out more.
If you have a food allergy, you'll be used to checking the ingredients on products. But the warning labels flagging potential allergens may not always give you the specific answer that you're looking for. Now, there's one type of labelling which is cropping up more and more. And for some people, it's causing a lot of confusion. And that labelling is the may contain. Now, whether that's they may contain nuts or another allergen, it's that word may which is causing a ton of frustration. It's known as precautionary allergen labelling. The allergen isn't an ingredient, but it could be present accidentally due to cross-contamination. Take this dark chocolate bar, for instance. It says here, may contain milk, but dark chocolate shouldn't contain any milk anyway. Here we have a pea and corn snack, and are you ready for this? Because it says here, we pack all our snacks in the same place, so they may contain gluten, eggs, peanut, soya, milk, nuts, mustard, and sesame. It's the full house. If you are somebody who has a food allergy, this is a minefield, and it's going to be completely restrictive on your choices. But not only that, in some cases, labelling can really be a matter of life and death. In 2016, Natasha Ednan Laperouse tragically died after eating sesame seeds that were baked into a pret-a-manger baguette. They were invisible to the eye, and the packaging didn't list this ingredient. Natasha's parents, Tanya and Nadim, have since successfully campaigned for a change in the law on allergen labelling on takeaway food.
Those food items now have to have the full ingredient labelling, every single thing that's in that food, and also to highlight the main allergens in bold. It's a big deal, and it's a really big change for the food industry that helps people with food allergies make safer choices around the food they buy and eat. However, there are many businesses who've rather gone down the avenue of putting precautionary allergy labelling on many of their foods when it's really quite unnecessary. It creates immense frustration, essentially, to 2 million people with serious food allergies. They just want real clarity and absolute truth about what is or is not in the food they're buying, so they can make proper, informed choices. And the overuse of such labelling actually creates a situation where they either buy food and they risk potentially coming to some harm through having an allergic reaction, or they stay away from all those foods, and therefore their choice of food is much restricted. And that's not right at all.
The law may have changed with takeaway food sales, but these warnings seem to be appearing on everyday foods more and more. So are the manufacturers being ultra cautious when it comes to their labelling, or even just trying to cover their backs? I'm keen to find out why they say these precautionary warnings are the right thing to do. Beech's Fine Chocolate Factory in Preston, well, they produce a range of chocolates, including chocolate-covered nuts, pralines and truffles. All their products are labelled to have milk and nuts as a definite or may contain allergen. Peter Whiting, the company's managing director, shows me why.
As you can see from the pipework, there's a lot of segments interconnected. So the very last metre or so of pipework is shared between the milk and the dark chocolate line. Clean and washed and swabbed between each run for the allergens. Although we can claim like a vegan certification because the milk is below the limit, there's a slight chance that there will be milk proteins in the dark chocolate mix. So we have to be leaning on the side of caution, and then that's where they may contain traces of milk come in.
Avoiding cross-contamination is a priority at all stages of the production process.
Right from the moment that the goods arrive on site, they're separate into different stores, and then as they sort of transit around the factory, they're kept isolated. If you're packing a product with an allergen inside it, you wear the green hat as well, like all the other things were green.
But still, after all that, trying to keep it separate, you still have to have the may contain sign-on.
Exactly, yeah. So the may contain is more from a risk point of view, and that if there's any chance at all that the allergen could have gone into other products, we have to put it on the box.
What would you have to do to make sure things are nut-free or milk-free?
The way to get around it would be to have like a segregated line completely that only handles, almost like a free-from range.
And I would guess, in a building that's over 100 years old, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Frustrating as it is for consumers with allergies, I can see why precautionary labelling really is necessary in older factories like this. With so much precautionary labelling on our everyday staples, a recent study suggested that only 1/3 of people with allergies and intolerances always avoid may contain. Adam Fox is a professor of paediatric allergy. Is there ever a moment when we can ignore these labels that say they may contain?
Really, it's a very personal thing. It's something that I always encourage patients to discuss with their doctor to get individualised advice. What the consumers really want to know is this safe to eat? We know that tiny trace amounts could be below the amount that could possibly cause a reaction, but that may not be for everybody, and some very sensitive people do need to be much more careful. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the wording that's used and the inconsistency. So, for example, some people put may contain and others may contain traces. And the other thing that comes through very clearly when you speak to patients is they think this labelling is mandatory. Now, that's a really dangerous thing because they misinterpret that when that labelling isn't there, that it must mean that there isn't a risk.
What I've learned today is that allergen labelling is done with the best of intentions. But the current situation, well, that's confusing for customers. What we need is a solution that works both for food businesses and for shoppers, that keeps them safe without limiting their choices unnecessarily.